Good morning, day 148, and I'm a little late today, but I had to really spend a lot of time thinking and meditating and praying. Hopefully it's worth the wait. I know it was for me, and that's what I'm ultimately really doing here. I'm just willing to share, and if it helps anybody else, that's just gravy. And wow, it's a beautiful morning. A little chilly, so I grabbed the jacket on the way out. Let me show you before we get started. It's just beautiful, beautiful. And the cough is just about gone. Feels like the elephant has gotten up, but I hear there's a lot of people like this, whatever this is, going around. In addition to our lovely COVID and flu and everything else, but that's okay. Well, if you have it, I'm sorry. I know it's not fun, but I hope that you get healthy soon. And anyway, Isaiah. I'm in chapter 7, and chapter 7. Well, I read a lot more than that. I read like 4 through 10, 9. But chapter 7 really captured my attention. And chapter 7 is also where we have the very famous, prophecy of Jesus coming, the virgin birth, Emmanuel. And maybe that's why I struggled a little bit. I was like, well, this is such a famous verse. Isn't this what I'm supposed to talk about? But what captured my attention, and where God was really having me spend some time, was right above that story or prophecy or interaction with King Ahaz, was verse 9. And they're even describing Isaiah is talking to King Ahaz, and King Ahaz is being threatened on both sides from Damascus and Samaria. Yeah, I think that's it. And anyway, there's war going on, and they're strategizing. And King Ahaz is very afraid. And Isaiah comes along and says, hey, God's got you. If you've got God and you stand firm in your faith, you're going to be okay. That is like the final line of verse 9. If you don't stand firm in your faith, you can't stand at all. I was like, whoa, that's pretty direct, right? And then I thought, well, am I doing that? Do I do that? Can I do that? That's my goal. I hope that is the structure that I'm building in my life. I don't think I was there before. I think I was standing in faith before. I had deceived myself I was standing in faith, but I wasn't standing firm. That's a big deal there. And then I started thinking, well, what does that really mean? And how, for whatever reason, the analogy that came to my mind was the difference between something that has a rigid structure, and not just a rigid structure, but one that even can have a little bit of, that can work with circumstances and the world. You know how even the strongest bridges and the strongest, tallest buildings they can't be too rigid, right? They've got to be able to kind of work with the environment and what's going on, but they're standing firm. That's part of their firmness, is that they also have a little flex and a little give. And from an engineering perspective, so I think that's really fascinating. And even with when I was building, when I build houses or help people build houses, you've got to have, the temptation is we want to make them so airtight and so allergy proof and keep the outside out and the inside in. But actually, if you do that, you can make the house itself unhealthy, you unhealthy. The house needs to be able to breathe, and air and, the different things need to be able to flow through it, and it won't function right. Just like even when we breathe, yes, our heart is on the inside and our lungs are on the inside, but they're so that we can process the outside world in, take what we need from it, get it out, right? But we have a very good structure that interacts with its world well. And then I thought of those silly blow up tubes that, a lot of car dealers and other businesses will have to get your attention and blow. And we even just bought ourselves a little inexpensive blow up hot tub. We have a couple of blow up kayaks. That's really cool technology, right? And it is very rigid, but it's a rigidity, and it works only as well as there are no seals that are broken, that it is airtight. It's filled with air. It's all dependent on air, and air being trapped inside to a certain degree, and then how it interacts with the outside world. But it has to be a really rigid structure, right? In order for the blow up thing to have rigid, to do what it's supposed to do and the purpose it's supposed to serve. But even like the blow up tubey things, just kind of, I think that's how some of us, we're like, whoa, well, we're standing here. It looks like we're firm, because we can actually be firm. These types of structures that are filled with air and even interacting with air, the way it all works is just, it's all like kind of, it's not an illusion, but it's only as good as that outside membrane is, right? And it's kind of deceptive that way. And we can really rely on the structure of something like that. I can even sit on top of it and float. But again, if a pinprick or something, something happened, and I can even have a slow leak, and I might not even notice that. It might still hold me up for a while. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the water's getting a little closer and closer. And so things could even still work even when they have small little leaks and holes. Kind of interesting, right? But it's not really firm in the way, and it's not reliable long term. Like, it's a good kind of temporary fun solution, but over the long term, do things like this really last? Do they stand up? Do they hold up? No, because they're really not intended to do that either. Or maybe they will, but there's a lot of work and maintenance and patching, and but it's an inexpensive, well, anyway, we don't need to talk about all of those things and why we use them, but it's more about that structure and the purpose of the structure. But you can build, like, we have buildings that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and even bridges and all of those things, they are standing firm. So I don't know, for me, that's like as I'm thinking about my faith and how it has to be very decided and planted firmly in a spot and anchored. And that's the other thing that happens with structures that are made to last. You have to just make a decision and plant it somewhere and put it somewhere. I don't know. There are probably other examples of other things that are made to last, that are portable, like ships and planes and vehicles even. But anyway, for our analogy, but the structure, the bones of it, it can stand because of how it's made, how it's constructed, how it's designed, and it's firmly in a purpose. It can't just go and be something else. And I think with humans, because we have minds and choices, we can kind of deceive ourselves with standing firm in something. And even if we stand firm in something, or if we're not standing in the right thing, we can't stand at all. We can be blown over, and God is just saying, you better be careful. Yeah, you can go make an alliance with these 2 other countries. And yes, that might seem like a good idea, very strategic, these other things. But if your ultimate ally is not God and your faith in God, then I can't help you. I can't help you. You're relying on something else, a different type of technology and structure and system that doesn't jive with me and how I do things. You've got to trust me and my structure and my instructions and my engineering and how I work, and not on your own design and what seems right. Because a lot of the way that God operates doesn't seem right to us. It's like, wait a minute, I can't see how that's going to work. I'm one person, there's 10,000 of them, they're all out to get me. Does not compute, right? Or even in our own lives, me versus cancer, me versus, gosh, there's so many horrible things that or at least they seem that way to us, that we're like, yeah, this does not compute. And he's acknowledging that. He's like, yep, totally. Sends Isaiah and says, yep, I get it. But you got to trust me. Got to trust me anyway. That's what David did. Those are the scenarios we keep seeing over and over again. And then he also uses Isaiah to ask Ahaz to ask for a test, ask for a proof, ask for a sign. And Ahaz is too afraid to do it, and then, goes on with the story. So even right there, it's just like Ahaz just cannot comprehend, because he is not firmly planted or standing in his faith. He might be planted, but is he standing firmly? Because he will be able to be chopped down, and he will not be able to stand any other way. It's being warned, being told. We all are. That's why it's in the book and standing the test of time. So, I don't know. Some food for thought. What is the structure of your life, and what does it tell? What story does it tell about what you have faith in? Do you have faith in your family first above everything? Faith in your identity as a corporate person? A lot of us can get very caught up in that, like that's who we are. And so when you kind of think of your identity and who you are, what first comes to mind? That might give you a clue of, oh, maybe okay, faith is a component and it's over here. Maybe it's a hand. And it's a part of you, but it's not who you are and where you're firmly planted and standing. We got to be really careful about these things, because anyway, it's given me, of course, as always, more to think about and ponder. And hopefully I am rebuilding a structure here that can stand firm in that way. I honestly, though, I'm not sure I'm quite there yet. But I'm working on it, and I'm trying, and I'm striving. Because that seems to be what kind of yields a good outcome overall. Seems like a good basket to put my eggs in. All right, but you all have a great day wherever you are, and make sure that you're standing, whatever you are firmly standing in, can withstand and stand up in any circumstance. Don't be flimsy. Don't be like a Gumby, inflatable Gumby. All right.